started, Brother Sean P., I want to say peace and love to everyone watching, peace and love to those who are watching live, and peace and love to those who will be watching in the chat room. My name is Dr. Ma'at, and I'm here today with my brother Sean P., aka Ini-Herit, Maasi Warrior Clan, Spears are flying, and pseudos are crying. Peace and love to you, brother. Go ahead and speak to the people.
Peace, peace. ETM Hotel, Rennie Sean. Welcome in peace. My name is Sean. I do want to say a lot for y'all, to our family out there. So that's peace both ways from Kemet to West Africa. So again, I'm glad to be here. I'm honored to be here, especially with you, Doc. You know, that's means a lot to me. And I'm just ready to build.
All right, so let's build, brother Sean P. Today I woke up and today is it's Memorial Day. So happy Memorial Day to everyone. And so when I woke up this morning, brother Sean P., I was scrolling through my social media page, and I saw a lot of shout outs, as you will, of veterans and people who fought in wars, and people were remembering the ancestors. But one thing I did notice is that no one posted about the origin of today. And so, I call it a hidden history. And the reason why I refer to it as hidden history is because it's not taught in the public school curriculum. But there's some hidden history about Memorial Day. And that hidden history is that Memorial Day was founded by free captives. I hate using the word slaves, but I would say free African captives. And people typically don't talk about that. And so I said, well, you know what? I'm going to do a quick little show where I present this article, and let me pull it up right now. I wanted to comb through this article, family, and share it with you. Okay. The name of the article is The Overlooked Black History of Memorial Day. And this article was published by Time Magazine. You see that it was published by Olivia Waxman on May the 22nd, 2020. Okay, so just 3 days ago, this article was released. All right, and so the first picture that you're looking at, it says on April 1865, this is April 1865 photo of the graves of Union soldiers buried at the racecourse turned Confederate prison, where historians believe the earliest Memorial Day ceremony took place. Okay, so this Confederate prison is located right in Charleston, South Carolina. Okay, so just bear with me for a little bit, family. So it says nowadays Memorial Day honors veterans of all wars, but its roots are in America's deadliest conflict, the Civil War. And we remember, family, that the Civil War took place between 1861 and 1865. Okay, and it says here that approximately 620,000 soldiers died, about 2/3 from disease. Okay, the work of honoring the dead began right away all over the country, and several American towns claim to be the birthplace of Memorial Day. Researchers have traced the earliest annual commemoration to women who laid flowers on the graves, on soldiers' graves in the Civil War Hospital, town of Columbus, Mississippi in April 1866. But historians like the Pulitzer Prize winner David Blight have tried to raise awareness of free, he says slaves, I always say captives, but awareness of free captives who decorated soldiers' graves a year earlier to make sure their story gets told too. According to Blight's 2001 book entitled Race and Reunion, the Civil War in American Memory, a commemoration organized by free slaves and some white missionaries, took place on May the 1st, 1865 in Charleston, South Carolina. Okay, so family, Memorial Day was established by free African captives. Okay, and the first Memorial Day took place on May the 1st, 1865 in Charleston, South Carolina, okay, at a former planters racetrack where Confederates held captured Union soldiers during the last year of the war. At least 257 prisoners died, many of disease, and were buried in unmarked graves. So the Black residents of Charleston decided to give them a proper burial. All right, and so family, right here, you're looking at, let me give it this. So this is a clubhouse at the race course. All right, let me show it to you. This was a clubhouse, okay, at the race course where Union soldiers were held prisoners, okay? All right, so in approximately 10 days leading up to the event, roughly 24 African-American Charlestonians reorganized the graves into rows and built a 10-foot tall white fence around them. An archway overhead spelled out martyrs of the race course, all right, in Black letters. So about 10,000 people, mostly Black residents, participated in the May 1st tribute, according to coverage back then in the Charleston Daily Courier and the New York Tribune. Starting at 9 a.m., about 3,000 Black school children paraded around the track, okay, holding roses and singing the Union song, John Brown's Body. And family, we know who John Brown is. Remember, John Brown was the European male that raided or headed or spearheaded the raid on Harper's Ferry, okay, where they were going to take over the arsenal and take guns and free our ancestors. So I know folks remember who John Brown is, okay? So the Union came up with a song called John Brown's Body, all right? And they were followed by adults representing aid societies for free Black men and women. Black pastors delivered sermons and led attendees in prayer and singing of spirituals. And there were picnics. James Redpath, the white director of Freedmen's Education in the region, organized about 30 speeches by Union officers, missionaries, and Black ministers. Participants sung patriotic songs like America and We'll Rally Around the Flag and the Star-Spangled Banner. And family, when I read this, I was just thinking about Black Americans in general. We are very patriotic. So despite all of the horrors and things that has happened to us as a people, we tend to be just a very loyal and patriotic people. And the world knows this and they see this and they play on this. Okay, so anyway, we sung the Star-Spangled Banner. It says, in the afternoon, 3 white and Black Union regiments marched around the graves and staged a drill. The New York Tribune described the tribute as a procession of friends and mourners as South Carolina, United States never saw before. The grave sites looked like one mass of flowers, and the breeze wafted the sweet perfumes from them, and tears of joy were shed. It says that this tribute gave birth to an American tradition. Now, see, family, this is things that you don't learn about in school. I know for me, I'm an 80s baby, and I actually have on a shirt that says 80s baby, ironically. And I never got this information in school. They never taught me that Black people started, Memorial Day. I knew it was something, a tradition that we celebrated, and I always viewed it as an American holiday, but I had no idea that my people organized this holiday. So anyway, it says that this tribute gave birth to an American tradition, Black wrote in Race and Reunion. I might actually purchase this book, family. It says the war was over and Memorial Day had been founded by African Americans in a ritual of remembrance and consecration. Okay, in 1996, Blight stumbled upon a New York Herald Tribune article detailing the tribute in a Harvard University archive. Okay, but the origin story it told was not the Memorial Day history that many white people had wanted to tell, he argued. So white folks didn't want to tell that, family. They didn't want to tell us that our ancestors started Memorial Day. All right, so it says about 50 years after the Civil War ended, someone at the United Daughters of the Confederacy asked the Ladies Memorial Association of Charleston to confirm that the May 1st, 1865 tribute occurred, and received a reply from one S.C. Beckwith. I regret that I was unable to gather any official information in answer to this. Whether Beckwith actually knew about the tribute or not, Blight argues the exchange illustrates how white Charlestonians suppressed from memory this founding. In a 1937 book, also incorrectly stated that James Redpath single-handedly organized the tribute. So they didn't give the credit to our ancestors, they gave it to somebody else. It says when in reality it was a group effort, in that it took place on May the 30th, when actually took place on May the 1st. That book was diminished. That book also diminished the role of the African Americans involved. I'm sorry, the role of the African Americans involved by referring to them as Black hands, which only knew that the dead they were honoring had raised them from a condition of servitude. Did you hear that, family? All right, so it says the origin story that did stick involves an 1868 call from General John A. Logan, president of the Union Army Veterans Group, urging Americans to decorate the graves of the fallen with flowers on May the 30th of that year. The ceremony that took place in Arlington National Cemetery that day has been considered the first official Memorial Day celebration. Memorial Day became a national holiday 2 decades later in 1889, and it took a century before it was moved in 1968 to the last Monday of May, where it remains today. So that's a little bit of quick history of a quick overview of Memorial Day. And it says, according to Blight, Hampton Park, named after Confederate General Wade Hampton, placed the grave site at the martyrs of the race course, and the graves were reinterred in the 1880s at a national cemetery in Beaufort, South Carolina. So the fact that free slaves Memorial Day tribute is not as well remembered is emblematic of the struggle that would follow as African Americans fight to be fully recognized by their contributions to American society continues to this day. It continues to this day. So that's a little bit of history, Brother Sean P, that we didn't know about. And it was actually, and I have to give props to our dear brother Black Panther, brother Benjamin Njai. Yeah, it was actually this brother that taught me about the origin of Memorial Day weekend. I think he posted it on Facebook a few years back. So definitely shout out to brother Benjamin Njai. Thank you so much for that. So I just wanted to pass on the information to the people who, I don't like saying follow me, but the people whom I'm connected with on social media. I just wanted to pass this information on. But Brother Sean P, I wanted you to speak to the viewers about what I refer to as Africanisms. When we came here, come on. You know, I have the book downstairs, Brother Sean P. I have my library. One bookshelf is behind me, and I have one downstairs. But definitely show the book one more time, Brother Sean P, just so the family can know Africanisms. It says Africanisms in American Culture by Joseph. What does that say, Brother Sean P? Joseph E. Holloway. I actually purchased the book off of Amazon, and it's a really good book. And it talks about how when we were captured and brought here to the Americas, we brought a lot of our culture, our way of life, our traditions with us, and burial and celebrating, the transitioning of someone was very, very important to West African people. So, Brother Sean P, I wanted you to speak to the viewers about that.
Sure. Just to add a little bit to what you were basically saying, where does this all come from? So let's start with the article that you just read, and then we walk backwards. Well, and what's so important is the fact that you, in the article, it was mentioned Beaufort, South Carolina, right? Or Charleston, South Carolina. We hear a lot of South Carolina when we talk about the earlier Africans that arrived here from West Africa, right? Because of the plantations and so on and so forth. And then we hear about the things that they brought with them. And this makes the Gullah people so significant to us, is because it holds true to our African roots coming through Beaufort, Charleston, and places like that. So in the book, Africanisms in American Culture, on page 157, it talks about the Gullah attitude towards death. Right? So here we get the earliest recollections of their attitude toward death. It says, and I'm gonna read it like the second paragraph. It says, death called for a sacred send-off of major proportions. This passage into the unseen but not remote spiritual world was a climax of one's existence, which continued through contact with the living and the beginning of another. African religion and spiritualism thus emphasize a celebration of human life. To life fully and robustly to be esteemed by the community was basic to African thinking and was incorporated into Africans' particular ontology. Sacred observances were often a fusion of the festive and the solemn, but their meaning to community living and social responsibility revealed the seriousness of the services. That which threatened the will to live, this vital force was dangerous to the individual and hence to the society. Inhabitants of the spiritual world were the guardians of life, appealed to in periods of crisis such as illness, environmental disasters, and the malice of others, or under normal stress of adult life. Often spiritual forces were placated as precautionary measure for the preservation of a person, the clan, the village, and the ethnic group. So just from that, we could see why our ancestors during this time would give a proper burial to those who needed one, right? Because what happened to us during the Civil War was pretty much if one of our ancestors lost their lives, it was just a body flung to the ground or to the dirt or in an area. There was it wasn't sanctioned, or it wasn't made holy, or it wasn't made safe, right? Because we can walk places now and we see these little markers, and we have to contribute those little markers to the movements that our ancestors made, because before there was no markers. It was just it was just dirt there or a grass patch there, and you didn't know somebody was there. But those little markers were influential in us knowing. All right. So if you take, since we're talking about burials, if you take us back from South Carolina and you take us to West Africa, what you see happen in West Africa is that of a celebration that we continue to this day. What do I mean by a celebration? Because of the last rite of passage is that transition from one realm to another.
That's right.
So with that being said, it was celebrated. So you would see people, and something that our people can connect to real quick is when we're at funerals, right? What tends to happen when we're at funerals? They all call it a celebration of life.
That's right.
Right? So in that celebration of life, we're celebrating the continuum, the transition from this realm to another, which still holds true, because when someone loses their life now in West Africa, yes, we mourn. Everyone mourns, right? But then the party begins, and it transcends quickly, because I was reading an article once. I actually have the article, but I was reading this article once, and it talked about this lady that's from here, was in West Africa, and she was visiting this town and some people she had got really familiar with. And in short, someone had died. But when she went in there to see that this person had died, she didn't know that the body had been there for a little while. Because people were too busy in the village to actually hold a true festival or a celebration for that elder's life. So what happened is, when things died down in the community, they gave her a proper send-off or celebration. But she still looked like she was full of life, but in a sleeping matter. And she also stated in the article that she never really experienced seeing a dead body like that before. Usually it's in the casket, you know what I mean? People have touched over it or whatever, but she had never seen it. She said, it looks like this woman was just laying there asleep, and her eyes was just closed, and she was waiting on her eyes to open. So that's how she looked. So the whole point of it all is that we always been big about this transition from one realm to another. We've always celebrated these things. If you look at the Free African Society, which is True Historian's big thing,
Right.
In the Free African Society, what do we see there? We see our free blacks putting their money together, creating these programs, these insurance policies, and so on and so forth, to create ways for us to properly bury our dead. So these are things that we have grown accustomed to and have carried out through time memorial. If we go further back than that and we look in ancient Kemet, we see the way that they actually held to or cling to burying the dead, those rituals that go into that, and the festives that surround that, how they bury the dead with with certain artifacts to carry on with them into the next room. And then we get back and we go look into into Nigeria, and we look at the Yoruba, or we look specifically at specifically the Yoruba, how they have these festives geared toward the ancestors, right? The Egungun, they have those celebrations of the Egungun. They come out and they stomp, they dance, they praise, all of that, because the Egungun means, dealing with the ancestors. However, Ben is, associated with that, so we really get some good inside information from that as well. But not only those type of things, but we have like you got this book, The Way of the Elders?
Let me look. No, I don't have that.
Okay, now Saul has it. I have it. Kofi should have had it by now. I don't know. But I want to touch on something that it says in chapter 14, deaths and funerals, right? It says, death is not the end of life, but a transformation of it. It is a profound crossing over the soul from this world into the next. When we pass on, we become ancestors residing close to spirit. Crossing over is the final and grandest initiation we make on our life journeys. All of our initiations, teachings, and lessons of our preparations for this final moment where we experience our most significant rite of passage. We now have more influence, more power, and more insight to guide and instruct those who remain embodied. When we cross over, we are able to promote the well-being, the unity, the peace of the community. Many of us believe in the reincarnation of spirit. Each time we cross over, spirit keeps a piece of our soul until we eventually fully unite it with spirit. Now, there was something significant that was said in that particular paragraph. They talked about specifically the community, right? So, we hear the great proverb, when one dies, a library is lost.
Yes. When an elder dies, they say that a library burns to the ground. Absolutely. Right.
So think about what just happened to the community that just lost the library, but not truly really lost the library, because what they do is they actually deify that ancestor, right? They create these shrines, these things of remembrance, these places where they can go and pay homage, continue to, what they say, feed their altar, or just means of worship that particular person, so just to keep them alive. They keep that name alive. If you read Nusu Bidi, right, or one of Asar's works where he talks about the name, how significant a name was. So we did things like that to keep the spirit alive. And those are details on how we really honored our dead. And we've always done that. You can look right now, if you've witnessed, someone renaming a child, right? I'm naming that child after my granddaddy, because
that's right.
That person X has that spirit of my granddaddy. Now, that's scientifically, you can go somewhere else with that. But to us, in our endearment, that person carries that. Like my son Elijah, his middle name is Robert. Robert is the first name of my cousin who died when he was like 13 years old. I asked my auntie if I could name him that. Little to know that she says, what, he do act like Robbie. And, and I'm sitting here like, yeah, they do kind of goofy things together. They both were like goofy, you know, like just little suburb kids, goofy, but hip hopped out, the whole nine.
But like you said, Brother Sean, that's what we do. You know, I'm sitting here thinking about my mom. Her name is Anna. She was named after her father's mother. My grandmother, Evelina, was named after her grandmother. And so, like you said, that's something that we've always done. And remember, our ancestors said, "If you speak my name, I'll live forever." So
Correct.
we've always done that in the Black or African community.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we do these things and we hold true, which goes back to what you were initially were educating us on, you know, how we properly bury our dead. So in the way of the ancestors, it talks about the burials, but you see this all through the traditions. They carry the body a specific way. They sing, they dance, they chant, they're going somewhere. Before they even lay the body in the ground, they are protecting the body once more. They're even hiding it, what they say, they're hiding it from evil spirits. You know, they tuck the body low, they surround it and enclose it. They, you know, they're warding off whatever it is going along. All the while in the background, you hear the talking drum, which has been the heartbeat of Africans since time immemorial. And you know, when we're so-called, when our family members and ancestors are transitioning that final ride, think about that final ride, right? Think about that final ride. We're going to the place to bury them.
Right.
No matter what side of town we're on, we're taking that final ride with them in honor of them.
That's
and
right.
When we get there, you know, the people, they say their words or whatnot, and then we lay them finally to their resting ground where they'll be forever, you know, where we can always go back to and continue to pour libations or do anything that we want to do. But we properly do that. We don't fling them to the side. We don't throw them in the water. We don't forget that, you know, they couldn't do this, that, or the third. If we don't have, right, if we don't have the means, we have fish fries, we sell ice cream.
Yes, we do.
Go for whatever we have to do. We try to do everything the right way to send someone off properly. And that holds true to who we are as a people. So we really cling to that transition from this side to the other side. And I think that that's a beautiful thing that we actually continue to learn from the more we study it.
Absolutely, Brother Sean P. That was powerful, brother. That was powerful. Thank you so much. I was thinking about when you talked about the Free African Society. And let me pull up real fast what Brother Sean P was talking to you guys about. I'm gonna share my screen with you. So, okay. All right, so here we go. So he's talking about the Free African Society, and it says that the members gave $1 a month to fund programs of social and economic needs. Okay, they helped paid for the burial costs of families, funded widows, paid for tuition of kids, aided the sick, taught trades, and etc. They gave moral discipline of acquiring good behavior, not abusing alcohol, paid dues, and etc. They gave rise to more than 100 similar African-American mutual aid societies in the Philadelphia region by 1838. But what I wanted to point out in this slide, and this is actually a slide that Pastor Bennett showed when he and I were going kind of back and forth on Sinetta's platform, and we were talking about the Free African Society, and he brought this slide up, and this is true. This is what our ancestors did do. You know, but I wanted to highlight this right here, the second bullet, where it says they paid dues to help pay for burial costs of families, funded widows, and paid tuition of those kids, and aided the sick and taught trades, and etc. So that's what Brother Sean P was referring to earlier today when he was talking about the Free African Society. But Brother Sean P, I think that you did a marvelous job explaining, you know, our connection, you know, to that, you know, from a West African perspective, and how we still cling on to those West African traditions that we had, you know, prior to the era of enslavement, and how we brought those traditions over here, you know, to the Americas with us. I don't have anything left to say. I didn't want the video to be too long, maybe 30 minutes, maybe 35, 40 minutes. Let me go to the chat room and just thank folks for tuning in. I see that we have Queen Juju in the building. Peace and love to you, Sister Juju. I see that we have D. Centavo in the building. Mr. Love, Mr. Sean. Hey, Sean, you got to get your butt in here, man. He's talking about daggone, I missed it. Brother Sean is an African-centered psychologist. Peace and love to you. I see we have Brother Dave B. We have Sister Hershey Murr in the building. Brother Real Truth and Power is in the building. Peace and love to you, brother. T. Goodwin is in the building. Someone named Get Your Hand Out of My Pocket. Peace and love to you, family. Jaborn Dark Light. LB. Ifatunde. Peace and love to you, family. Mr. Anthony Richardson. Peace and love to you. DJ Moss. Peace and love to you. BK Soul Farm. Peace and love to you. Incredible Hawk. Peace and love to you. Nana Asadu. Peace and love to you, family. All right, so Brother Sean P., I look forward to our next build. I might hit you up, or if you got an idea, brother, and it's something you want to get off your mind, hit me up and we'll go live for about 30, 45 minutes to get this information out to the people. Do you have any closing words for the family?
Yeah, I do. I just like to thank everybody for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe to Dr. Mahad's channel. Stay in tune with what's going on. Spears of Democracy is officially, unofficially out. You get that at KofiPiesideTV.com. The button on Amazon will be released the 27th, so you'll be able to also order from Amazon. But to your point, thank you for having me on for this beautiful discussion. Remember that we've always honored and properly buried our dead. We see evidence of that even on the New York City's African burial ground as well, which is a beautiful story in its own, and what people came together to do to make sure that those early Africans were honored. So, do right by your ancestors and, live your life accordingly. And I just appreciate everybody for tuning in.
All right, and thank you so much, brother, for stopping through. Spears are flying and pseudos are crying. Peace and love, family. Thank you so much for joining in. See you next time. Look, I'm trying to stop recording without ending the meeting.